Alright my friends, welcome back to All Cars, and today we are in for a special treat, honestly. It is one of my reaction videos, but this is to the Wuling Fighting May Be the Compact Truck You've Been Dreaming Of. So guys, I have never heard of this channel before. It's called Wheelsboy. I just checked them out. I instantly subscribed to them. They focus on the incredibly weird and quirky Chinese auto market. I don't know how I've never known this existed. So this is one of their videos. I want to react to it because I talk a lot about compact pickup trucks on this channel. If you haven't been there, go check them out, subscribe to them. They are really awesome. The short little bit I've actually been able to watch here. But the Wuling Fighting is a compact pickup truck that is half the price of the Maverick. And so I've watched a few minutes. I'll go ahead and tell you, I watched a few minutes just to see what the heck this was, because it's pink. Bright, bright, bright pink. So I want to play it here for you, and I'll have a link to the original video below. And let's just go see what this thing is. I'm pretty excited.
Welcome. It seems like one of the greatest pastimes of modern American car enthusiasts is lamenting the death of the small, affordable pickup truck. If you listen to these people online, modern American pickup trucks are huge, grotesquely expensive abominations. All they really want is a cheap, compact, preferably manual pickup truck that they can use to haul stuff on the weekends.
So yeah, I'm one of those people. I have fond memories. I've said it many times on this channel of the old Nissan hard bodies, the Mitsubishi Mighty Maxes, the original S10s and Rangers, the Isuzu Pup, things like that. I've talked a lot about it, and you know, I'm not sure that if one was available right now with a standard cab and a 5-speed, I'm not sure I would get that. I need the space behind it, but I'm really excited about the Maverick. I've talked a lot about it here. But yeah, I'm one of them, and a lot of my viewers have kind of echoed the same thing. Why can't we just get a simple pickup truck anymore?
While still getting decent fuel economy during the commute. Well, the new Ford Maverick seems like a pretty decent solution to this problem, but I reckon I've got an even better one, and it costs less than half as much as a Ford Maverick. Meet the Wuling Fighting in pink. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you can keep up with all the great content coming from the Wheelsboy channel and keep learning about the Chinese auto market. Alright, back to the video. The name Wuling might sound familiar to longtime viewers of this channel because this is actually the third Wuling model we've reviewed, the other two being the Wuling Mini EV, China's best-selling electric car, and the Wuling Hongguang, China's best-selling car.
So I'm just pausing it here. That's interesting. That's almost a handsome little car. The proportions are just a little off, but it looks, I don't know, almost like a cross between a Chevy Tahoe, a Mitsubishi, and a Ford Flex. That's pretty cool, and that's the best-selling car in China. Interesting.
Period. Wuling, a result of the joint venture between SAIC and General Motors, is known for producing extremely affordable vehicles.
Okay, so I've heard of this. I did not realize Wuling. I'm not really into the Chinese market. I'm kind of halfway paying attention to it simply because I think we're going to start seeing, eventually, it's inevitable, we're going to see Chinese brands actually coming here, and I think that as Chinese brands continue to grow, they're going to absorb more of the other automotive companies out there, like Volvo has been, Lotus has been, things like that. But I have heard of this truck because I remember reading an article. I think it was, I think it might have been on Fox, I don't know, about a super cheap pickup truck that was by General Motors, is how they presented it. So I have heard of this because it's at General Motors partnership. And look at that glorious exposed hinge right there. I mean, that is setting the tone for me of this entire truck. They didn't try to hide the hinge. They just stuck it out there on the outside like a freezer door.
Vehicles, and the Fighting is no different, with prices ranging from just $9,000 to $10,000. The front-end styling of the Fighting may not have the same charm as the Mini EV, but, well, nothing really does. What you get instead is a simple, handsome design with almost no frills, other than these optional lower fog lamps. There are no LED headlights or radar units or cameras because those are expensive and you don't need them to carry things in your truck.
That looks, for all the world to me, like a Nissan crossed with a Mitsubishi. Big chrome piece right there, and those big square rectangular cutouts for the fog lights. Very Mitsubishi-esque to me, but the proportions on this truck are almost comical. Like, it looks really narrow, super long, and then there's tiny wheels. It's not ugly per se, it just looks off balance. Maybe that's a word.
The Fighting is about 5.1 meters in length, ever so slightly longer than a Ford Maverick. But at 2.45 meters, the Fighting's bed is nearly double the length of the Maverick's. The side profile clearly reveals the MPV roots of the Fighting because it looks like they just put a pickup truck bed on an MPV.
It's slightly longer than a Maverick with twice the bed. I mean, first off, it looks like it has a pretty short hood on it, but it must be all here behind the front seat or something. That's outstanding. So there's, for those of us who are like, well, yeah, you can carry a 4x8 sheet of plywood in the back of a Maverick, but it hangs out 2 feet. There's your answer.
The dark gray 14-inch wheels, while very small, are far more interesting than they need to be. I would have expected them to just use Steelies with plastic hubcaps, but these actually look pretty cool.
14-inch wheels. When was the last time? I mean, 15-inch wheels look tiny now, but when was the last time you heard of 14-inch?
I also really like the look of this black roll bar, light bar, structural piece. I'm not really sure what it is, to be honest, but we're going to talk more about that in a minute. First, I want to address 2 issues: the color and the name. You see, we borrowed this car from a couple here in Shanghai that are what you might call social media influencers. They received this as a gift from Wuling and then immediately wrapped it in this pink color and used it in their wedding ceremony. For the clout. Obviously, we would have preferred to review a stock car, but beggars can't be choosers. I will also take this opportunity to apologize for just how dirty it is. I swear to you, we tried so hard to clean this thing, that stuff just doesn't come off.
What the heck is he talking about? Anyway, so influencers in China got a truck as a gift. Sign me up. Now, I'm not wrapping it in pink, but heck yeah. And just the more you look at it, the more primitive this starts looking. I mean, on the side view there, you could actually see where the rear leaf spring mount was. Just hanging down there where you could see it behind the cab. I hope they show it again. Behind the cab, there's a U channel. Like, they literally just took something off and put something else there.
Wuling themselves have actually built a few concept versions of the Fighting in-house. One version was specially designed for snowboarding, another one for fishing, and even one for overlanding. We saw the overlanding version at the Shanghai Auto Show, and it looked properly tough. They also made a couple of these trucks in a special color they call Meng Nan Fen, which translates to fierce or vigorous man pink, and looks pretty close to the one we have here.
Vigorous man pink. I don't think that's a color Ford's going to be coming out with anytime soon. That's interesting. This is fascinating, guys. Those concept ones, they looked, man, they look some of them look pretty sharp. I like that red one.
Today.
As for the name, well, it's not a direct translation of the Chinese name, which is Zhengtu, which means something closer to journey or trek. It actually comes from the fact that in modern Chinese culture, the English word fighting is a commonly used term of encouragement. For example, I've been at the gym before underneath of the bench press and had a Chinese friend shout at me, fighting as I was trying to finish one of my reps. It's the same thing as saying, you can do it. Now, fighting is a pretty good name, not as good as the Haval Big Dog or the Aura Good Cat. The only problem is it sounds really weird when you pluralize it, as in, I saw no less than 3 fightings on my way to work today. But let's get back to what really matters on this pickup truck, the bed. You see, this is more of a flatbed than it is a traditional pickup truck because all 3 sides can be folded down. In order to do that, you do have to remove this black structure here with 3 bolts. Very easily done. The only problem is I'm not sure if this thing is only for holding the sides up or if it's actually part of the structure of the car. Either way, I would probably leave it on if it were my car, just in case. Still, even if you leave these sides up, you can still very easily access anything in the bed because of the low ride height, the high bed, and the low sides. Now here's something you can't do in almost any...
So look at this, guys. This thing, the wheels don't come in. This bed is mounted so high, the wheels are all entirely underneath it. And then, yeah, this is what I remember from the article I read where the sides can actually come down. That's... I don't know if that would catch on in America. I really don't. I think it's cool as heck. What do I need that for? I guess if I'm a laborer, that would be extremely handy. But for the average everyday person, I don't know. I'm intrigued. I really am.
Modern pickup truck. They're just too big. Our tour of the interior isn't going to take very long because really there isn't much to talk about. The plastics are just as hard and cheap as you would expect on a $10,000 car, but they were nice enough to give you a variety of colors and materials, looks at least, including brushed metal and carbon fiber. There's not a lot of buttons to talk about other than the AC knobs here on the center console, as well as some on the steering wheel and around the steering wheel. The center screen is amazing in that it actually exists in a car this cheap.
You know what? Look at this. I mean, I understand what he's saying about the plastics being as hard and as cheap as you would expect. That's a very handsome interior. It's clean. It's slightly stylized, like that bevel they've got across the top there between the vents. The vents are rectangular and just lightly circled with that chrome. You know, they're not weird shapes and, you know, everything else. They're not the stupid circles. I can't stand those. That's just clean. Now, what does jump out at me is there's no knob for the radio. That's something I'm kind of touchy about. The touch screens. I don't like to change my stuff through the touch screen exclusively. That's a pretty minor one. Does not have push button start. Oh my goodness, how can I survive? And look at the gauges. I mean, maybe they'll give a close-up here in a minute, but 2 standard gauges with just little information, you know, rimmed in chrome, power windows, nice mix of materials. It might be cheap to sit in, but that is a clean, fresh, nice. I like this interior. That's what I'm trying to say, guys. I like this interior a lot.
It also has Bluetooth audio and hands-free calling, not to mention a backup camera. The seats themselves are very, very thin and not very supportive, but the faux leather, pretty soft. This being a 2-row pickup, we have to try out the back seat. Okay, space is fine, acceptable, but this seating position can best be described as turgid. There's also 0 adjustment whatsoever. The seats, too, are even thinner and even less supportive than the ones up front. I am surprised and pleased, however, to see headrests. In a summation,
Have you ever seen a back seat that's that right angle? I mean, that looks unbelievably uncomfortable. I guess for temporary use or whatever, it'd be fine, but it's got map pockets behind the front seats, and, you know, look at the space he's got in front of his knees. It's not as tiny back there as I thought it was going to be, judging by the length of the bed.
I wouldn't want to spend more than 5 minutes back here. Where I do want to be, however, is in the driver's seat, because I want to find out what it's like behind the wheel of this potential dream truck.
Underneath the hood of the Wuling Fighting is a naturally aspirated 1.5-liter four-cylinder making 74 kilowatts and 140 newton-meters of torque. That's backed by a 5-speed manual transmission that puts power down through the rear wheels only.
A 1.5 liter naturally aspirated. I have no idea how much horsepower that is. I'm gonna have to look it up after we're done here. Doesn't sound powerful. Let's put it that way.
The Wuling Fighting, much like the Wuling Hongguang MPV on which it is based, is exceedingly easy to drive. I'm not one of those people that thinks that putting a manual transmission in an otherwise boring car will make it, fun or exciting, but it's undeniable that this 5-speed manual makes this a much more engaging vehicle to drive. Now, it's also very, very hard, nearly impossible to stall because most of the torque comes in at very low in the rev range. The manual transmission also allows you to wring every last bit of power out of the little four-banger up front, and you kind of need it. This thing weighs less than 3,000 pounds, or about 1,300 some kilos, but with only 74 kilowatts, it's...
There we go. This is what I'm looking for. So 200.5 inches long, 64.5 inches. It's 71 inches tall. So that's 6 feet tall, right? Yeah, 6 feet tall, 124-inch wheelbase, 100 horsepower. There we go. That's what I was looking for. 111 foot-pounds of torque, and it makes it low so you can't stall it, or it's hard to. I wonder if there's any other options. Is there an optional engine? Can it get an automatic? I wonder if he's going to go into all that. But $10,000 to $11,500. I mean, I feel very confident this would never pass any sort of U.S. Safety regulations or emission regulations, but I'm telling you, I'm liking what I see. I think that the proportions on something like this, it would sell in America, but it wouldn't be a home run by any stretch. It just, in some angles, it looks really, really odd. But gosh, I tell you what, you do a couple of things to it, I'd be. How many people out there would be excited for let's say a $12,000 car, $13,000 truck, small engine, 5-speed, but for workers, for painters, for carpenters, they need to throw the crap in the back. They aren't looking to go. This is, I'm liking this, guys. I really am.
It's definitely not fast. It's enough to keep up with traffic, but if you loaded it with cargo and people, I imagine it would be monumentally slow. Inside of the cabin, well, NVH isn't great. I do have some complaints in that front. I'm not sure if the mic is going to pick it up, but there are a lot of squeaks. A lot of squeaks. There is a squeak from the air conditioner, there is squeak from the hard plastic interior, and there is a very loud squeak from the rear. I believe it is probably from the black roll hoop that I mentioned earlier. I should also mention that this car has driven, as of right now, 1,150 kilometers, or about 700 some miles. It's brand new. Suspension is McPherson struts up front and leaf springs in the rear, which, while simple and I'm sure quite reliable, doesn't make for the best ride. The leaf springs, well, much like a lot of pickup trucks that have leaf springs, every time you go over a big bump, the rear kind of turns into a pogo stick. It's not a great feeling. The steering wheel is made of a material that is somewhere on the level of a dog toy, but hopefully that will make it very durable. The feeling you get through the steering wheel is, well, there's not a lot of it other than the vibration from the engine. Overall, though, with all of these complaints that I have, it's still $10,000. This thing's only supposed to be good at two things: being cheap and hauling things around. And in that respect, it gets a thumbs up from me.
Something I haven't mentioned up to this point is that I am a former small truck owner myself. My first vehicle was a 1998 Mazda B2500, aka the Dragon Wagon, and I drove it all throughout high school and university. It was the perfect size for hauling everything from furniture to fertilizer, and we almost always chose it over my dad's F-150 King Ranch when it came time to do any real work. I poked fun at the full-size truck haters at the beginning of this video, but I honestly think they have a point.
I too believe that modern pickup trucks are way bigger, way more capable, and hence way more expensive than they really need to be. In that sense, the cheap, simple Wuling is a perfect antidote to those road-going behemoths. The only problem is, it's only sold here in China. So the lesson to our viewers outside of China is, go buy a used Mazda pickup truck, I guess. Well, thank you for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell.
That was awesome, and I will echo what he said. Thank you for being on my channel, but please go check out Wheelsboy and subscribe to their channel. They've got a lot of really, really cool cars. For the most part, I'm a little torn. I'm excited about that. That is so freaking cool. If it was here, would I buy one? I don't know. I don't know, honestly. Would I keep my car and then add this as a cheap truck, whereas if I bought something like a Maverick, I would have to replace my car based on the cost? I don't know. I'd be awful tempted. But, let me know in the comments below what you think. Is there a market for this? Even if it is noisy and things are rattling at 700 miles in and it has 100 horsepower like the good old days of small trucks, even with those narrow, tall proportions, I can't shake the feeling there's something there, that there's a market for that. I'm sure GM's thought about it, and maybe it's that safety and emissions that they couldn't bring it here, but I have to think that there are many thousands of people who want a truck like that because they own a landscaping business or whatever it happens to be, and that this would sell. I really do. I'd like to know your thoughts, but I'm glad I stumbled across this. Thank you, YouTube algorithm, for recommending it to me, but please hit the like button for my channel. If you haven't, please subscribe. We try to do fun stuff like this every single time. If you have a comment or a question, please let me know below. But I appreciate your time and sharing a few minutes with me.